Welcome back, everyone. I'm the Depressed Eeyore, and this is Langrisser Mobile Apex Season 5. Or is it Season 4? It's one of those numbers. Anyway, since I'm now Gold 3, I'm pretty much just doing my win a week. And I'm probably just going to combine most of these together, possibly, into one video. We'll see. I did have one match before this, which was a loss. Mainly because it was against Claret and Zerda. And I didn't really take account to Zerda's positioning, or at least I pretty much miscounted the tiles. And at that point, I tried to do a trade, but I was actually kind of surprised that Zerda, even without Bloodthirster, was able to one-shot my my Angelina, even with full health in Last Brides. So yeah, that happened. Anyway, so pretty much a lot of my choices on many of these boxes is, do I want to deal with assassins or do I want to deal with AoE? In some cases, it kind of depends on the character, but in most cases, I'm more willing to deal with assassins now than I want to deal with most AoEs. There's some AoEs I'm okay with them having, such as Bozel and Rachel. Generally, when it comes to AoEs, I want them to have their mages, because mages are a lot easier for me to kill, and I can actually reliably kill them with Angelina, even without a standard attack skill. So that's generally the thought, but as always, I ban Juggler first, because he is Juggler. I do like it when they ban my Estelle first, because that generally guarantees I get some sort of faction buff if I want one. They of course pick Langrisser. Well, I won't say of course, sometimes they go all in on the AoE. So them picking Langrisser pretty much ensured that I was going to get their Ares and then Rian. Rian doesn't have a lot of mobility, but he has like insane amount of range and span with his AoEs when he's transformed, and he also has damage reduction, like crazy damage reduction when he's transformed. So he's just really kind of tanky, kind of like a bruiser AoE that does a lot of debuffs that you can't do anything about. So I've definitely get rid of Rian over a lot of the other AoEs. I didn't really talk about the box itself. 2 tanks set up with 4 healers, it looks like. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 healers and a delet. And then the rest of it was kind of just a lot of AoE with a little bit of single target. So I went ahead and took Freya. They actually banned my Claret and my Luna. They took their Zerda. For a second I was like, alright, what do I want to take? And then I realized they left me with my Zerda, so I was like, I'm of course going to take a Zerda. Mainly because of faction buff, but she's also a good assassin. I went ahead and got rid of their Mystery Knight because she could be faction buffed, and of course she's magic and very annoying to deal with. I went ahead and picked off Delet. I was going to kind of pick off their heals a little bit to kind of force them to pick a healer eventually. Also, I wasn't really sure what direction this box was going to go from here. I mean, Lycoris would be a problem, so an Arian Rod can also be an issue. But I wasn't exactly sure what direction they were going to go with it, so I was like, alright, I'll get rid of their Delet, because I know that's going to be a problem if I let them have it. And of course, Mystery Knight is always a quick ban. They got rid of more of my high mobility, it looks like. They picked their Bozel. This was actually kind of an early Bozel pick in my opinion. Usually they kind of pick that as the last one if I let them have it. So I was like, alright, well I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Lycoris and get rid of your Weiler, because Weiler is super annoying. I went ahead and took Angelina, so I have my AoE. They got rid of my Delet and my other faction buffer. They took Leona as their healer, so I was like, alright, perfect. They picked a healer, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the last year DPS, leaving you with Rachel. I left them with Rachel because she's a mage and I can kill mages. Went ahead and took Tiaras because I already have a buff for Angelina here. I was actually surprised they let me have my healers. And then they banned my Charlinka and Lycoris. I was actually tempted to pick Charlinka before I picked my healer, but I wanted to go ahead and be sure I have TRS available. In hindsight, I think Charlinka would have been a better pick, just simply because it would have probably made the fight a little bit easier. Even if they took out my TRS, I would have still been able to take some sort of healer, like young Jessica or something. They took their Rachel, and I took my my young Jessica. Alright. So their Zerda is Bloodthirster Assassin with Sly Strike. She doesn't need a faction buff because Bozil exists. Bozil is Black Hole and Sleep. So I was definitely concerned about the sleep. Rachel, I didn't even look at what she had when I fought her. She had Runic Void and a single target, so nothing too out there. Liana does not have her AoE heal, but she does have a summon. And then Landius is standard. Everything else, my Zerda has faction buff and Bloodthirster. Angelina is usual. My TRS, I actually took Mass Heal over Miracle just in case I got hit with some sort of debuff from Bozil. Young Jessica went single target, and then Freya is pretty standard physical kit. Despite all the mages, Freya is mainly there just to deal with Landius. Then provide faction buffs for the others. Oh, as of recording this, my Lycoris is now 6 stars. Unfortunately, the one match I got to use her in, I put her in a bad position where she was going to get assassinated, so... Lycoris being 6 stars is pretty huge. I mean, not only does her stats increase, her healing increase, which in turn makes her damage increase. The big thing is her terrain effects will last 2 turns now instead of just 1, which is super useful. So I'm hoping to use her more in the future, but it's just a lot of my kit revolves around just getting in real quick and taking out as many units as possible. So yeah, Sky Archers. So the point of the Sky Archer, I'm pretty sure, is to provide threat, because Zerda's Hide and Seek does not proc if she's in any threatened squares. So her being here is just really just a big annoyance. The other possibility is also just to block Angelina, which doesn't really matter at this point because my target is going to be that Bozil. Because the Bozil obviously is going to be in range. I was a bit concerned about Liana doing an act again, so I was just kind of waiting for that. So, went ahead and got Attack Blessing up. And then I'm going to get hit with some bad luck here, unfortunately. So I did provide a movement buff to young Jessica, thanks to TRS. Not a huge deal, it's not something I really needed, but it is going to help me out in a bit. But the big issue is the Rachel actually has the same helmet as TRS and actually got the same proc. Got mobility +3 on this Bozil, which pretty much ensures he's going to hit me with whatever he wants. So my original plan was going to be to push him away, to kind of keep him out of trouble, and then possibly kill him, maybe. Obviously the big issue here is the Zerda, because if I go in with Angelina, it's going to be a trade. Angelina's not going to be able to survive against Zerda, unfortunately. But I went ahead and went in, because I needed to deal with one of their casters. I was hoping for some sort of proc, but I didn't get a single one. It's only 20% per character, so it's not super high. But I went right for the Rachel, because the Rachel's dots would have probably shredded me. Also, she can passive heal, so passive heal and passive cleanse. So I went ahead and moved down here just to kind of force the Zerda to go all the way down here to get her kill. Yeah, not much you can do about that. But that'll at least buy me a turn to kind of get set up. I actually fell back with young Jessica here. In hindsight, I think I probably didn't need to go back this far, but that's okay. Big issue, of course, is Breeze proc. So she has 9 mobility, so she actually outranges my Zerda. My Zerda doesn't use Breeze. I try not to use Breeze or Clock too often because it's pretty RNG. Even if it works with me. Pretty much I'll only do Breeze on certain characters that absolutely need the mobility, like Sherlinka and so forth. Anyway, so yeah, young Jessica is kind of just being outranged by the Zerda here, and it's just kind of a problem. So with all that taken into account, obviously with that +2 mobility that Bozil got, there's not much I can do about the AoE nonsense. So at this point, I'm just kind of trying to reposition. I was a bit surprised he didn't run in for the... Actually, he moved his tank first so he could protect Bozil. I went ahead and just got Freya out of the way, and then I'm just kind of falling back at this point and getting Bloodthirster up and running. Yep, so here's the act again. So it's going to get Zerda set up again. She's just out of range of my Zerda, which is annoying. Luckily didn't get a Breeze proc this time. So I actually shifted Freya down to essentially block her way in. Almost got the kill with Dispel. I was hoping to, because then I'll force it the res to proc, but it didn't. But yeah, so here, the only way to get to this side of the map is through this tile or this tile. So I blocked this tile to ensure that Zerda can't push her way in and just start assassinating people. And at this point, I'm using Young Jessica as bait. I definitely wanted to soften up Landius, but I want the Zerda to potentially attack. And the choices are literally either go for my Young Jessica or pass turn, in which case the buff will wear off. So Bozal, I was expecting sleep from Bozal, but instead I got hit with Black Hole, which didn't really do much. It did disable passives on Freya, which right now her guard is up, so she doesn't have to worry about it just yet. And then damage taken and mobility down for Young Jessica, which it doesn't matter for her. TRS got affected with damage taken and then can't receive buffs, and Zerda was immune to debuffs, so it didn't really do anything to her. So I went ahead and just moved in. I went ahead and just healed, just to kind of cleanse whatever was on there. I didn't even check the debuffs when I cast the spell. Alright, so Zerda went all in here. No surprise here. Falls back. I went ahead and moved in. So, I almost didn't pull this off, which would have been a problem. Yeah, I almost got, it almost ended up being a trade here. Now, I'm actually going to fall back to this spot. In hindsight, I think it would have been better if I stopped here. Just because once the passive, the debuff wears off, and this guard buff wears off, I would still be able to guard Zerda. That was kind of maybe a mistake on my part. But also, I was also kind of trying to tempt Landius to move in, simply because Landius would pretty much die in the trade, because he only has 8% health right now, and my assassins would strike first. But since he didn't make the trade, I went ahead and attacked with Freya, and I was hoping to go for a double kill with the procs, but I was just short. So at this point, I kind of had to make a decision. So I went and healed first. This would ensure that Zerda's last rites would be at full. And surprisingly, he didn't go for the attack. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna put a Bloodthirster. Now I didn't get hide and seek because obviously I'm in range, and my opponent made a mistake at this point. He went sleep on my Zerda, and of course she's immune to all debuffs. It did remove some buffs from her, but she still has her attack buff. So really all I needed is just to make sure I can one-shot the Bozal, and that's easy enough to do. So finish off the Bozal. This will put me at full health. I can't move again because of Landius. And so I have no buffs, but I do have last rites, and that was enough to actually save her here. So I went ahead and just moved, reposition, got some more heals up. Finally got rid of the passive debuff. And I'm actually going to go ahead and just stay in place so I can guard both of them at the same time with the Lance Phalanx. And it's right now a 2-on-3, and that extra body I have to force them to take actions is definitely going to be very key here. So just taking my time. I mean, I think so. You'll see what this Liana was hoping for. Still wasn't really the best decision. She was going to try to remove mobility, which actually would be pretty effective. But my Freya has a badge, which makes her immune to mobility down as well as defense down. So it just didn't work. So I couldn't really get Zerda out of here, which is kind of a problem. So I couldn't trigger hide and seek. And this Landius has a lot of mobility because he's cavalry, despite being a tank. So I fell back to go ahead and do faction buff here. Obviously the mist is closing in, and I need to eventually get to hold the center. But I had a little bit of time left, so I'm trying to just buy myself enough time to get Bloodthirster up and find my target. They did put up Sky Archer. I don't know what the point of it was. Looks like it was just for an extra heal. I don't know. I just went and killed it with TRS. I thought originally what was going to happen was he was going to put the Sky Archer right here where Tiaras is at and just block me and just kind of delay me. I don't know if it would have helped too much, but it at least hindered me. But Sky Archer being here didn't do anything for me. It just, I was like, alright, I can still move to where I need to go. So Landius went around, I don't know why. So I was like, well, screw hide and seek. I'm just going to take the 3 of the 4 tiles that could be stand on with ground units. So Landius can't get inside now. I did have Freya's guard is going to wear off, but this Landius actually can't reach Freya. Only could move 5 tiles, so he can get to here. His own unit's actually blocking Landius completely, and everywhere else it's nothing. So yeah, he's kind of screwed at this point. And just to kind of twist the knife even further, I went ahead and just blocked him in, even to ensure he can't go anywhere else. So, gonna heal up here. I was like, okay, well, that means you're dead. Because just gonna do this. Landius went around this way. Again, I don't know why, because literally the mist is closing in, and his only location that would have been safe would have been right here. So with this in mind, I can like this Landius is dead at this point. As long as I don't give him a tile, he's not going to get out. So I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to block him in completely because he's going to have to go first next round, and go ahead and just finish off Liana here. And I already counted the steps, so all I have to do is just move back a little bit, and I'll be completely safe. At this point, he just gave up. All he could have done was try to attack my TRS, which my Freya was guarding, and even if he succeeded in the trade, the mist would have killed it. And yeah, there you go. Alright, so I actually didn't bother recording one of my weekly wins, simply because I was pretty tilted through through most of it. It was quite the losing streak I had. Some of it was my fault, just really dumb mistakes, or just getting flat out robbed, where I was like 6 hit points short of actually getting a kill. And then there was one match where it was literally, I think both of us were tilted, and we're just both making so many mistakes. Just unfortunately, I made more mistakes, and they were more costly. And even when I got finally got my win for the week, it was just not a very satisfying. It wasn't really something worth recording. It was pretty much this. Some of the things you guys have kind of already seen me do multiple times, where I just, you know, go in with Angelina, hit them with the AoE, get the extra action, kill one of their key units, and they immediately give up. So I skipped a week essentially as far as recording is concerned. I don't skip weeks as far as getting the win. I do want the crystals and all that stuff. But also just that week was a lot of the same box over and over again. It was just, you know, it's stuff I generally complain about. This box, on the other hand, is actually kind of unique. I mean, you don't usually see. Is that Kurama? I think it's Kurama. I believe that's what his name is. A Vargas, and the rest is more or less the same. But that at least stands out. Anyway, 4 healers, one of them being a D-Lit, of course. Decent. Yeah, it looks like a decent number of AoE, 1 assassin, of course a Listel, and looks like 3 tanks. I, of course, banned their juggler to get things started. They banned my Estelle. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I take out, they pick their Landius, of course. I take out their main AoE. I was kind of tempted to go after the healers first, but because I don't want to deal with TRS usually. But I really needed to get these 2 out of the picture. Not only are they AoE, but they're also swords, which are generally strong against Freya. They actually went immediately after kind of some of my healers, so I actually picked a healer rather early. They picked Listel early. I got rid of pretty much everything else that was a single target danger, really. Everything else is pretty much AoE or magic at this point. Leon's only a single target, and he can't do anything to Freya. Since they kind of focused on my healers, I went ahead and grabbed Sophia just to ensure that I have healing as well as some buffs. Also, my Sophia has the badge equipped, so she is actually immune to fixed damage. so she can't really be she can't just be insta-killed by Listel. She could still be heal reversaled, but I'll have to deal with that. Banning more of my high mobility characters. They went straight for TRS. They actually picked a healer rather early. So I was like, alright, well, I'll ban your D-Lit because your D-Lit's dangerous, and I got rid of their Bozol. I mean, my choice was either ban their Bozol or ban their Kurama. And Kurama, while has some very interesting passive fixed damage type stuff, overall I'm not that afraid of him. So I was completely content with not having to deal with Bozol for once. I went ahead and grabbed Angelina. I was tempted to grab my Princess faction buffers, but I was like, I have Sophia. I do want to be able to have the extra mobility, especially on this map. They banned the rest of my mobility essentially, and they picked Kurama. So so far their kill potential is just their Listel and their Kurama. Everything else is essentially just tank and healer. I banned the rest of the healers just so I don't have them doubling up on healers. I'd rather them double up on tanks if anything. And if they pick Leon, that's more power to me, because, like I said, Leon can't do anything to Freya. I take D-Lit just to have a kind of a backup healer and backup cleanse, because obviously Listel exists. They banned my casters, essentially. Young Jessica, I wasn't really planning on picking Young Jessica, though I probably should have. I was actually thinking of getting Sherlinka just so I have an assassin. So Sherlinka it is, and they picked Vargas, so they have 2 tanks. One of them was both of them was self-resing. All right. I don't know if I've shown a video with Kurama. I'm pretty sure I did at some point, but they get bonuses essentially from standing in certain terrain, and while standing in that terrain, they get a chance to reduce cooldown. They have a transformation, just like majority of the Yu Yu Hakusho characters. And pretty much it treats everything as grasslands, which means that plant manipulation will always trigger. Also, ignore melee damage mitigation when attacking, and ignore melee damage mitigation, and then when attacking, they can ignore 20% of magic defense. And the debuff after it ends is they can't counterattack, though he usually doesn't live long enough to actually have that happen. His Rosewhip Blossom deals magic damage and then does Demonic Seed, which does fixed damage. Yeah, pretty standard stuff. Let's see. Yeah, it just does tons of essentially it puts a dot on it that does tons of fixed damage. And then down here, it's pretty much more the same. This one actually puts up an aura, where if anyone within 4 block radius ends their turn near him, they take fixed damage. So it's just a lot of nasty fixed damage. So it's actually a neat little combo with Listel. Listel, of course, is this one didn't take Reaper's Touch, which is really good, because Reaper's Touch is really hard to deal with once it's applied. It's pretty much all, looks like it's all silent stuff, so Blood Dance, Bind Bore, and then Seal on top of that. So as long as I survive the initial AoEs, I have a few rounds where Listel won't really be able to do anything. I won't be able to really one-shot her, because of course Listel has tons of HP and is rather tanky. Landius is Landius as usual. Vargas, standard kit for Vargas, I think. Unbreakable Guardian, Power Stab, Battle Cry, and then Tiaras is all heals. So pretty standard stuff here. Nothing really to talk about as far as my kit. It's pretty standard. D-Lit has Gossipal, and that's about it. Everything else is normal. So I measured out the distance. I was actually counting steps based off Reaper's Touch originally, because I always assumed that Listel has Reaper's Touch, but then I eventually found out that she didn't. But for right now, I kind of measured out the steps, and I wasn't too concerned about the heal reversal. Usually it's a bit dangerous, because obviously you get hit, and then you won't be able to heal in time before the next hit comes, and then they finish off your tank. But the only person that can really do damage here is Kurama. Landius can't do shit to Freya, and even Vargas with Unbreakable Guardian Power Stab is not going to be able to do anything to Freya. So I put Gospel up on Angelina because it's kind of my strongest attack buff. Sophia's passive exclusive item does about 15% attack, while Gospel does 20%. And I was actually, as always, I count steps and check where I can AoE. I had an opening to get the extra action before Kurama moved, but the only way I would be able to hit them would be to do an AoE from here and going left, which Landius wouldn't move because of his 3-cost ability, and Listel moving is not a big deal, but Vargas would have actually moved 3 steps back and actually be in guard range of Kurama, so I actually had to wait before I attempted to do Angelina's little combo. Conveniently, it worked out because what ended up happening is Kurama moved up, and if I hit all 4 of them, they'll all be pushed together, and of course remain in, and Kurama would be in Vargas's guard range still because he would be moving back as well. But if I hit only 3 of them and ignore Kurama, Listel will be blocked from moving backwards, but Vargas would actually move out of range of guarding Kurama, so that is the plan here. And Kurama looks pretty fragile. Not much defense, and HP is nothing too impressive. It's only, 4 digits. No fixed immunity, so just go straight in for the kill. Even got a freeze on Listel, but of course he gets cleansed off. I was trying to find a position to use Sherlinka, but I really could not find one. Biggest danger, of course, is Landius. He's cavalry, and he could probably do. It's possible that he could do enough damage to finish off Skeleton Knights in Sherlinka. I'm not entirely sure that's true, but I didn't want to test it because if I lose her, that's one less attacker. And right now, my Angelina is not really in a condition to do any further attacks. All of her buffs are gone, and she's low on health. So get hit with Mind Bore, which is going to apply Seal on Sherlinka. I went ahead and moved in to go ahead and apply Lance Phalanx. So at this point, I'm pretty sure my opponent was thinking, okay, well, if they don't take out Listel, I can go in immediately and do Blood Dance, which will do, over 7k damage straight to their generals, which everyone in my group can actually tank it. It'll do tons of damage and apply this heal reversal stuff, but it's not really the end of the world. And my opponent doesn't know that my main healer has fixed immunity. So I went into See Miracles. I took the heal reversal damage just to kind of ensure I can cleanse off some debuffs. So yeah, the TRS has magic damage, so I can't guard against it. And she does have sorceresses, so she can actually do okay damage for a healer anyway. Went ahead and moved in to try to get a hit on Vargas. Swords versus spears gives me a little bit of advantage, but not quite enough to get a kill. But I was okay with doing the attempt, and then of course, opponent sees the. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this move here. One thing you could have done, obviously, is to check their buffs. If their healer has a green number for their skill, they probably have some sort of badge equipped that will grant them immunity to silence and fixed damage. So yeah, got hit pretty bad here. As you can see, D-Lit's nearly dead. Freya's practically at half life at this point. So I actually passed turn with Freya to get rid of the fixed immunity, and TRS actually capitalized here and went ahead and finished off my D-Lit. So it's 4-on-4 still. Sucks to lose her, but it's not. I didn't really have anything else to do with D-Lit. So I went ahead and moved into position. My plan was to try to get into a situation where I can get to assassinate TRS. The biggest issue, of course, is the only way I can guard bypass with Broken Dream is if there's no allies within 3 blocks of me. So I have to do some fancy positioning to actually get this to work. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if I can actually pull that off. But I went ahead and did this. I was going to loop around and push Vargas down and then try to attack Vargas. But I actually had a change of plans here because I actually got lucky, really lucky, and got some more stuns. The proc rate for the freeze is 20%, so, and you have to be in water, which is why I usually do the title buff. So at this point, Listel has used all of her primary spells, so all she could do is single target, which isn't going to do anything. She is fixed immune, so none of my fancy Freya fixed damage is going to do anything. Went ahead and went for kill. Then Fargus tried to attack, and I just fixed it. The fixed damage alone just finishes him off. In hindsight, I probably should have attacked with the Angelina first, and then attacked with Freya. Would have done a little bit more, but it's not a huge deal. Obviously, Tiaras' heal passive buffs are still active right now. They are weaker because Tiaras is currently dead, but it's still annoying because it heals troops in the hero. So just gonna wear him down. I didn't even bother putting on my guard. I just kept wearing down Landius, and then he thought in his weakened state that he'd be able to take on Sherlinka, and it actually didn't happen. So I was actually pretty glad about that. The skeleton warriors actually have some pretty decent buffs if you if they go against things that are not holy or demon. In fact, let's take a look at that. So yeah, my win percentage is not great, unfortunately. But let's take a quick look at Holy Demon Skeleton Knights. So yeah, they get plus 40% stats, which is really good. They of course get the resurrection. The main thing is when attack increases defense by 30%, as long as it's not demons or holy. So they can be reasonably tanky. But once they get past those Skeleton Knights, Landius would just shred Sherlinka. Alright, well, I think that'll be it for right now. Obviously my rate of playing Apex is slowed considerably, but I got gold 3, that's really all that matters to me. So I am the Depressed Dior, this was Langrisser Mobile Apex, see you guys later.